All right. What's up, guys? We are going live tonight. We're just waiting for my good friend Fred Jones to jump on. What's up, Johnny? What's up, buddy? Yo, give me hearts. Make sure you guys can hear me. Make sure you can hear me. Make sure everything's good. Lighting looks good. Sound looks good. My hair looks good. All that good stuff. All right, let me see here. We're just waiting for Fred Jones to jump on here, guys. He's going to be jumping on through the Professional Beauty Federation of California. There we go. We got him. Here we are. Let's see if it'll come through here. Hey, Fred, how are you?
Hey, great, Matt. Good evening.
Good to see you, man. Thank you so much for taking time to talk with us today.
I appreciate you setting it up.
Absolutely. Let's just jump right in. First of all, can you just tell everybody who you are, what you do, and why you were my very first DM, like the second I heard this crazy news?
We've had a lot of crazy news in the last 2 years, haven't we, Matt?
Yeah, yeah, yes.
It's just been wild. What a roller coaster. So yeah, for the past 20 plus years, I have served as legal counsel and registered lobbyist for the Professional Beauty Federation of California, which sole mission is to raise the professionalism of the beauty and barbering industry here in California. We did most of our 20 years of work in Sacramento, dealing with policies and laws and regulations, dealing with politicians and regulators. But when COVID hit, that's when you and I met.
Yes.
The stakes got a lot higher. And so we ended up pursuing a couple of lawsuits against our governor and some of his health directors to get our safe shops reopened. We led an Open Salons Now media and grassroots campaign. And we really had to go for broke because people were frankly going broke.
Yeah.
And we decided, if not us, who?
Yeah.
And we formed a lot of great partnerships as a result of those fights. One of them was with Eric Taylor with Salon Republic, who now has become our board chairman and CEO. And we formed just really great alliances with folks because we stepped up. The Professional Beauty Federation took on our sitting governor, which, doesn't make us popular with him and his minions, but we had to do it because it was the right thing.
Yeah.
Well, on the heels of all of that, our state legislature, and they decide to carry SB 803, that's Senate Bill 803, which was one of the most comprehensive reforms of our industry ever attempted, at least during my 20 years of tenure representing this industry.
Yeah.
And it was just some major changes. For example, the first iteration of the bill would have removed haircutting and barbering services from licensure completely. Just gone.
Yeah.
Anybody could do it.
Gosh, yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, and a host of massive reforms to our school, to our education, to our examination, our licensing exam, to some other license scope of practice. There were some good things in SB 803, but the totality of it was so overwhelming. And the fact that it came directly on the heels of the preceding 18 months of COVID battles, it was just ridiculous. I mean, we were already flat on our back, so to speak.
Yeah. Now we beat that, right? That did not pass.
So no, SB 803 did in fact pass, but we were able to get some amendments. Certainly not everything that we wanted. I mean, they call the legislature the sausage mill. Everyone knows what sausage tastes like, but nobody wants to see it, put together.
Yes.
And that's my line of work. I'm in that legislative sausage mill, and we were able to get some of the, grossest chunks out of the sausage. But, some of the things that stayed in were not things that we were terribly happy with. Yeah. And one of those major changes, which is the purpose of tonight's live, is to discuss the change to our licensing exam. And one of the big changes that stayed in the sausage that ended up passing the legislature and getting signed into law by Governor Newsom was to do away with our hands-on practical exam.
Okay, that was one of my major questions for today, was that did we have a chance to vote on this? Because it just caught me out of nowhere. I feel like a bomb was just dropped on the industry and nobody even knows where it came from or what happened. Um, I obviously voted not to pass that bill, but I had no clue that this was even inside that bill. So this was a part of the bill that we did have an opportunity to vote on that did end up getting passed.
Yeah, and let me clarify. I hate to be your civics teacher,
No,
but so you and I didn't get a vote. We don't have a direct democracy. I mean, we do with the ballot initiative, but when it comes to legislation, we vote for our elected representatives who then vote on our behalf
so
or
this
on
was not
occasion against
something.
us.
This was not something I was able to directly vote on.
That's right. And this wasn't, supported by the state board, or at least wasn't sponsored by the state board.
Got
This was the brainchild of a specific legislator who happened to be very influential, the chairman of the key committee responsible for oversight of our state board and by extension our industry, the Business and Professions Committee.
Okay.
So Senator Roth from Riverside County, he was the author of this bill. And so we tried to work with Senator Roth. I met with him at least 2, maybe 3 times, a plethora of letters I helped generate. And we did make some changes to the bill, as I said earlier. But he and his staff are not fans of licensing exams that include hands-on. It's cumbersome. It takes a lot of time to schedule. It's costly in terms of the regulatory agency that has to do these things, in this case, our State Board of Barbering and Cosmetology. And so going into this battle, I knew that the practical exam was definitely on the chopping block. Now, we made an argument on behalf of the broader industry that, look, much like the DMV and a license, driver's license, are we comfortable saying to someone, oh, just take a computer-based exam, but we're never going to actually put you behind the wheel?
Yeah.
A license to drive. How many people are comfortable with that idea?
Yeah.
And let's face it, we deal with chemicals, we deal with sharp edges, we deal with intimate connection and contact with our clients. So, disinfections, cross-contamination, we deal with a lot of crap, right?
Yes.
And
yeah.
Frankly, the premise of SB803 was based on a fundamental disrespect for our industry, that we're a low-level, blue collar, not sophisticated industry, that shampoos and cuts hair.
Yeah.
Not recognizing, look, we do hair, we do nails, we do skin, not recognizing everything that I just said earlier about chemicals and sharp edges and cross-contamination and disinfection protocols. They really disrespected us. And that's unfortunate. So, it was a clear message to my association and to our industry. It should be a wake-up call that we've got to do a better job advocating for ourselves and explaining to the public who vote for their elected representatives in Sacramento that, look, we need respect. We deal with client safety every day. And that should have been abundantly clear during COVID.
Yes.
Sorry about monopolizing the conversation, Matt. You know me.
No, you're good. You're good. I'm totally learning. I'm learning. That's what this whole thing was for, was to really educate everybody, because like I said before, I didn't even know where this came from. And so I felt like we needed an open discussion. And I hope that I put enough forward, with the way that you guys know me, that this is the place to get it done, is right here together, because that's what we need, is an open discussion where we can learn, where we can grow and understand what's really happening to our industry. Because I feel the same way you do. It's not only that the practical is gone, it's that this industry has no mandatory continual education. And if you look at a lot of well-respected professions out there, not only do they have licensing exams, but they have mandatory education and hours and programs that they have to keep doing to retain their license. So not only do we not have mandatory continued education, but we don't even have a practical exam now to provide safety for the clients. And I just feel like you're absolutely right. They have dropped us down the bar lower and lower and lower to the point to where now I'm just like, where do we stand as an industry when it comes to your end? Because I know how I feel about our industry. It's the greatest industry on the planet. But where do we stand as an industry on your end? Is your leverage and the leverage of our industry just at the bottom of the barrel right now?
Yeah, we've got to do a lot better job in the PR marketing effort on our behalf, on our profession's behalf. But we also have to do a better job of cleaning up our own house. I mean, we often have these tribal battles, you know, hairdressers versus barbers. And, you know, I don't want to talk about all the tribal, you know,
Yeah.
turf battles that we have. We need to come together and recognize that the similarities across all of our sectors, across all of our ethnicities, across all of our genders and sexual orientation, in our industry, hair, skin, and nail, our similarities far outnumber our differences. And
Yes.
when it comes to dealing with politicians and regulatory officials, if we're not united together, they're going to be able to divide us, and they will set the terms of how we will be governed and how we will be treated and
Yeah.
ultimately how we will be perceived. So
Yeah.
that's first and foremost. We have to unify as an industry. And so, you know, for example, I hear so many licensees say, well, I don't care about the practical exam, and I didn't learn much at school. Schools all suck. Well, look, I had 20 years of formal education. I'm a lawyer. So I did undergrad, I did postgraduate. And do I think every course I took was relevant in the real world? No, that's just not how it works. We
Yeah.
shouldn't be bagging on our schools, right? And
Yeah.
frankly, if I would have asserted myself and did a more proactive job in law school or in undergrad, I probably would have gotten more out of my college and law school experience. Same goes with hairdressers and barbers. A lot of us probably really didn't
Yeah.
assert ourselves in
Yeah.
school, and we were just sitting around during 1600 hours for a lot of that
Yeah.
instead of taking advantage of every one of those hours.
And,
So
and
let's
to say to your point right there about schools, I think everyone needs to understand they have cleaned up the schools, the beauty schools, at least here in California, a lot. My beauty school, which was, I would be one of those people saying it was no good, is shut down. Many, many, many of my friends' beauty schools are gone. The ones left are the Paul Mitchells, the Tony and Guys, and the ones attached to the community colleges, which, by the way, guys, have massive passer ratings when it comes to your test, and most of them are highly regarded. So there's been a massive cleanup of the schools. And I just want everyone to know that that already happened a long time ago. And you do get what you get out of your schooling. I think you're absolutely right. That is the basis of this industry. You can have your license, practical or not, and be successful or unsuccessful based on your own merit. That's what makes this whole thing great. So you played a little bit of devil's advocate about the hairdressers that think schools are no good, the test is just bullshit, we don't need any of that crap anymore anyways. What about this other, I'm going to play devil's advocate again. What about a hairdresser like myself that's licensed through the practical exam with experience and a following? Should I just look at this situation and be like, you know what, Fred? Fuck everybody else. This is good for me because they're going to let a bunch of people in the industry that are nowhere near at level I am. And now I can charge more. I can get more people in. I can pump people out faster. I can promote myself like I've been through the practical. What would you say to someone that wants to play that sort of card right now?
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to my earlier point. If we don't get our own house unified, we are going to be buffeted by every politician that thinks they have a better idea of how to govern us. So we first have to come together. This bill divided us. It divided the skincare professionals from the hair and barbers because they got an expansion to their licensing scope, which they wanted for decades, which was great. And we supported that. But what about at that same moment, the idea of doing away with haircutting services from our license? We would have preferred, and we had a lot of our members, our skincare professionals, who said, hey, as much as we like it for our sector, this is screwing hair. And that's not good for all of us in the long run. So they opposed the bill, even though it would have helped their bottom line. The other fight was between chain salons and others, because the chain salons have been hurting trying to get employees, right? Especially during COVID and the STEMI checks, and they just can't get stylists back into the salon. And, you know, they deal with recent graduates typically, right?
Yeah.
Churn and burn. And we couldn't get through to most of them. We were able to get to some of them, but a lot of the chain salons supported 803 because they would prefer, let me just hire someone off the street and we'll just train them in-house.
Wow.
But again, we're not about teaching kids to flip burgers at McDonald's. This is a lifelong profession. We're about training master chefs.
Yes.
And that's really the difference in visions. And so we all need to come together and recognize this is a profession, right?
Yeah.
And we need to be united. And so if one sector is being pitted against another, we should not tolerate that. We need to be united together. And there's some great unsung heroes out there that did go beyond their own sector that would have benefited and said, no, I'm going to oppose this bill because it hurts the overall industry. And again, I think through this challenge, we've established some great relationships. Our profile has really increased. Our membership has increased. So as these battles continue, and they always will with the full-time legislature, I think we're going to have a lot more leverage, provided we can stay united as an industry.
When you said chains, when I think of chains in the beauty industry, I think of the big dogs, right? The Tony and Guys. I think of the Aveda salons, and I think of the, like in Southern California, Carlton Hair used to be just a dominant force. And Carlton Hair did exactly what you are talking about. They brought people in out of school and turned them into master chefs. A lot of the friends I work with went through that after schooling program, which, by the way, an after schooling program is pretty much gone from our industry right now. But when you say chain that we're into this, and I don't mean it out of disrespect, and I'll explain why. Are you talking about the supercuts, the sports clips, that sort of? Okay. Okay. The reason I want everyone to know that clearly is because I've said in my classes and for a long time that everyone, and I'm a big believer, everyone needs to be licensed. Everyone needs to be together. Everyone needs to have more respect for what they do. And that's going to create more respect outwards. And the best way to do that is to look at the supercuts and the sports clips. And every hairdresser out there who's high end like myself is tell yourself, there is clientele for everybody. So there is no need to look down on the supercuts. There's people that cannot afford you. They need somewhere to go. So I'm grateful we have that program there, that kids can come out of school, they can go there, they can learn, people can get more affordable cuts. There's room for everybody in this industry.
I'm glad you see that.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you gave that perspective, because that's how we see it.
Yeah.
We see the ability for booth renters and suite renters to get along with employee-based salons. We see schools working with chain salons and the higher end that you listed earlier, chains. All of us should be working together. You know, my eldest child is a cosmetologist, and her first job was at Great Clips, and it was a great experience for her. But we also got something inserted in SB803 that we've been fighting for a number of years, which was an expansion of the externship program. So we definitely believe there's no substitute for real world in the salon experience.
Yes.
The problem is the law said for students, you had to complete at least 60% of your education, and you could only do 8 hours a day and only 10 hours a week. And there was all these restrictions for students to go into the salon during their school and get clock hour credit for that. So we radically expanded the externship program as part of SB803. And I hope that schools take advantage of that. And again, that's another opportunity for chains and for other salons to partner with schools and with students before they even become licensees and start giving them real world salon experience while they're also getting clock hour credit for their license. So it's a real win-win-win for all the parties involved. That's the type of vision we have, where we're not goring someone's sacred ox. Everybody, you know, John F. Kennedy was fond of saying, a rising tide lifts all ships. That's the PBFC vision. We don't care whether you're a luxury yacht or you're a one-man row. We're all sharing the same water level. So let's help raise that tide, and all of us will be raised because of that. That's our vision.
Yeah. And so now, how is this effective immediately? Like if I graduate school today, there is no practical exam.
In fact, it's somewhat retroactive because there's a legal opinion at the Department of Consumer Affairs with our state board is housed in. They said that the written exam is valid for, I think, 10 months. So for a student that may have taken the written exam 10 months ago and passed the written portion, the computer-based exam, but failed the practical, they won't have to retake the whole licensing exam. They will be given retroactive credit for passing the written because starting January 1st, moving forward, there's no practical. So the state board's actually in the next week or two anticipating sending out a bunch of new licenses to folks that were in that situation.
Yeah.
One portion, but they failed the other portion. So that's good news for a lot of students that were worried about the delay of having to retake the exam and so forth. So it's not all bad, but the reason why we fought so hard to keep the practical exam is the message it sends to students or to apprentices or whomever. And that message is, you don't have to worry about the hands-on competency, you know, the rote memory, the muscle memory, you know, always disinfecting, always thinking in terms of health and safety while you're using your hands and performing your art. Because now all you have to do is learn the theory, regurgitate that on a computer-based exam, and boom, if you pass that, you're in. And that misses so much of your schooling experience and obviously the scope of our license. So we were very concerned that by doing away with the practical exam, it was going to send a message to students that, you know, you don't really have to spend a lot of time on the clinic floor, or don't even worry about this externship program that maybe your school wants you to participate in. All you should do is read the book and prepare for a written exam. And I hope that doesn't happen. I hope schools maintain their high standards, keep raising their standards. But that was one of our fundamental concerns about doing away with the practical.
You know, you're totally right, because I drop combs every day, all day. You can ask some of my best friends. I'm well known for dropping combs. And the only reason I do not pick my comb up is because I dropped a comb in the practical exam with the examiner looking right at me. And I looked right at her, and it scared me to my soul, like down to my, and I knew, like, there's a protocol. If I pick this up, I need to grab a tissue. I need to pick up with the tissue. I go straight to the disinfectant, drop it in the box, set the timer. 13 years in, I still remember that. I'll never forget. Right. And so that's kind of like, I totally understand what you're saying. Like, they're going to be missing that part of the business. And when you're in a salon like I am with 26 people, you have to understand there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of feet walking across that floor every single day. We can't get everything. And so where do you see this leading our industry as far as what's going to be the effect of this 2, 3, 4 years? Because I think since COVID started, we can all agree that on many, many issues around the world, we are on a slippery slope. And we're just waiting for one big avalanche to take a bunch of shit out, is what it really feels like all the time. And this kind of feels the same way. It feels like we're on a slippery slope, and they've taken one step closer, in my opinion, one step closer in removing the licensee of being a cosmetologist, period, in the state of California.
Yeah, and there were certainly some people backing SB803 in its early iterations that ultimately want to do away with licensure. By the way, not just in our industry, but because we're one of the biggest license categories out there, and because barbering starts with the letter B, we tend to be on the top of the list for some of these libertarian think tank groups that want to do away with vocational licensing. And by the way, just on that point, I can go off on so many tangents. It's true that in the late 60s, it was like 8 or 9% of our job market was licensed. So 90+%, there was no government oversight, government license. And then now it's approaching almost a third. And so there's a lot of folks that say, wait a minute, that's too much government, it's too much regulation. But we're not part of that. We started our license schema back in 1927 here in California. So we've been licensed by the state of California as an industry for a century. We're not these Johnny-come-lately types. So licensure, whether we like it as an individual or not, is integrated into our profession. It's sets the minimum standards by which the 600,000 of us licensed in California all have to maintain. Now, if you want to go beyond those standards, that's the mission of our private association. We want you to go beyond state board minimum standards. But for the sake of everybody who all share the same tide, we want to make sure there's at least a minimum of professional standards, of health and safety standards. That's what a license and the whole regulatory schema ensures, or at least it's supposed to ensure.
Yeah. So now I've asked this question to you before. I don't know if you remember. It was really fast, probably through DMs. But what if we did away with the whole system? Where does that put us at? Because if there's no practical exam, next up, I feel like there's no statewide licensing, which means the schools graduate kids on their own and place them on their own, which to me really sounds like a massive free-for-all, because I just interviewed for new assistants, and the very first thing we ask is, have your license. So we wouldn't even know where they came from. You'd have different degrees out of different schools, what's legit, what's not, and to be honest with you, like, did you print it? Who knows? So what happens if we end up just doing away with the whole state board program? And then I have a follow-up question about state board, but what do you think? I mean, is that the path we're on, that we're just going to be eliminating the whole state board?
I have to say, personally, I'm of two minds on this. I mean, part of me wants to say, yeah, let's go into the brave new world. Let's buyer beware. Let's let the market take care of things. But it's not a theoretical question that you have, Matt. All you have to do is go to Mexico or go to Thailand or go to some of these countries that don't have license. And, I posted a bunch of pictures of barber services on the streets of some of these third world countries.
Yeah.
It ain't pretty.
Yeah.
I guarantee you the price point for those services are in the basement.
Yeah.
So this isn't a theoretical conversation. We have countries that do that today, and it's not pretty. It's not good for the overall profession. It's not good for the clients, the consumers. It's not really good for anyone. So before we get too high and mighty and say, we know what's best, our generation's ready for change. We've got the internet. We've got Instagram. Let's do it. I think we need to respect those that came before us. There's a reason why we've had a license for a century. And, maybe it's just the conservative nature of me. Before we go tearing something down, let's figure out who built it and why. Yeah. And does it justify maintaining it, maybe building, maybe adding to it, maybe reforming it, maybe gutting it? But let's not just destroy the whole edifice, especially when you're dealing with, quite literally, hundreds of thousands of individuals and tens of thousands of salons and nail salons and spas.
And that works perfectly for my follow-up question, because I agree. I don't think, after we discussed it a while back, just briefly, I was like, he's totally right. Like, we do not want to lower the standards of our industry as a whole by removing a licensee or a state board or any of that. That's what holds us really in any sort of regard, is that we have a licensing program and a state board. But that's my follow-up question. I was on many of the calls with the state board where I listened to hairdressers just cry and pour their heart out. It was haunting. It still haunts when I think about it. And I spoke as well, and the state board was on the other line and did not speak a word. And then we didn't hear anything from any of them until after we had already reopened. Then I believe there was a statement or a few, and that was it. So this is my question about the state board. If this bill was passed because we vote for legislators, right? That's what you explained to me. And the one that we voted in passed this bill, correct? Or a group of them, right? Mm-hmm. So who the fuck are the people sitting on the state board, and why don't we have any say about the people who are representing us or handling this program, and what was their stance on removing the practical?
Oh boy, that was a protein-rich question with a lot of different elements.
I'm a protein-rich kind of guy, Fred.
I don't want to lose everyone watching, so I'll try to keep it brief. So first of all, our state board are not policymakers. The legislative branch the elected officials, they're the ones that set the rules of the game. It's up to the state board to enforce those rules, but not to set them. So this bill was not their brainchild. They weren't the sponsor of the bill. They did ask for some amendments. For example, they were very much against doing away with hair cutting services from our licensed scope of practice and some other issues that they had. So they had an opportunity to weigh in, and they took it on occasion. But they have to pick their battles as well, because guess who appoints them? The governor and legislators. And so they have to be careful that they're not going to go too far out on that thin limb and offend the very people that appoint them. So that was another cause for caution. But let's get this straight once and for all, Matt.
Yeah.
The State Board of Barbering and Cosmetology is not your representative. Certainly not your advocate. No more so than if you have a driver's license, the DMV. Does anyone think if they get pulled over for a traffic ticket or in an accident, the DMV is going to show up at court and represent you? So let's get that straight.
Well, yeah, well
Who's
said.
your advocate?
Yeah.
Us together, unified. We've got to do it. We've got to pull ourselves up by our own bootstraps privately through private associations, because the government's not there to be our advocate. They're there to be judge, jury, and executioner. They're not there to be our public defender.
Yeah. Okay, so this is something that I think I've heard from you and other people multiple times. And I think I'm a great representation of the fact that it's very difficult to get that through my head. It's very, very hard for me to understand that and for me to have it stick. That's the hard part. So the representation that we need is you guys. It's the Professional Beauty Federation of California, right?
Well, I mean, there are other associations that folks can join, but for 20 years, I've been in the trenches in Sacramento representing all of you as part of the Professional Beauty Federation of California. There's been not a whole lot of other folks in those trenches for 20 years. And the few that come and go don't have the overall perspective of everybody. They usually represent one sector of our large industry, and they have no problem benefiting their sector at the expense of all the other sectors. And that's not the PBFC's goal. We try to look at transcendent issues that affect the entire industry and come up with solutions and proposals that will help elevate all of us equally.
Okay, good. Now, this is something I've asked a few people, but I've never had a chance to ask someone like yourself that's truly, truly knowledgeable in this range. Why are we not unionized?
Well, first of all, at least 80, maybe 85% of our industry are not employee-based. Okay. So if you're not dealing with employees, it's very difficult to unionize. That's the single biggest stumbling block for unionization. The other kind of a practical response to that is we're right brain artists. We don't mobilize and unionize and organize very easily.
No, we don't.
So, and then I'll just say a third level, unionization comes with its own challenges. And oftentimes, the bigger a union gets, the more it morphs into like a government agency. And it loses the broader vision of what you're trying to do for the industry. And a union just becomes, okay, it's all about salaries and wages of employees, and we don't care what happens to the salon owner. We don't care, frankly, what happens to the union member. We're just about very narrow tunnel vision issues. That's not what the PBFC and private associations are. We've got to earn your dues. Yeah. Right? And we hope that we earn your dues as much as you pay for your license every other year. We would hope that students coming out of beauty college and existing licensed professionals all think that, look, there's two checks I got to write. Every year I'm writing my $50 to the PBFC, and every other year my $50 to the state board. One allows me to work legally. The other advocates for me. Look, we sued our governor not once, but twice. Yeah. We have proven our willingness to go to the mat for this industry, even when it was political suicide. Yes. So we will be your advocate. The state board won't, others won't. We're the ones fighting for you. So we think if we want to raise the professional of this industry, everyone should be part of the Professional Beauty Federation.
Yeah, and I saw a ton of the comments. I just want you guys to know the union question is not myself or Fred wanting a union. It's just me trying to understand the landscape that we're in. And if anyone else doesn't understand the landscape, this was their opportunity to understand the landscape, which I think was really, really well laid out tonight. What the landscape is, what it's like. You know, we learned a lot about what was going on. And so here's the big thing that I just want everybody to understand. If you're passionate about this industry, then being a part of the Professional Beauty Federation of California sounds like the place that you need to be. Is that right, Fred?
Boy, you teed that one up nicely. and tonight's goal wasn't to try to do a membership drive.
No,
I'm
no.
grateful.
Oh.
I'm grateful. Look, I don't do a good enough job, and my board doesn't do enough job tooting our accomplishments, tooting our own horn.
Yeah.
We've had some great accomplishments. And the vast majority of the work that we've done and the successes we've had over the past 20 years prior to COVID, nobody knew about. I mean, we were the classic tree falling in the forest and nobody heard it. Doesn't make a sound. Yeah. But we were there in the trenches representing everybody and having that mission of raising everybody's tide, everybody's standard, everybody's professionalism, you know, making that pie bigger for everybody. And post-COVID, finally people have realized, they realized kind of two things. One, the state board's not my advocate, right?
Yeah, no.
And two, I need an advocate who's out there fighting for me.
Yeah.
And there we were. We were fighting with you, Matt, with others. I don't want to go through names because I'll forget. With hundreds and hundreds of influencers, lots of people that said, you know what? We need to come together. We need to fight this together. And we did. And now finally people are tuning in and realizing there's more to my profession than just my license. Yeah. I've got to join and be unified with my private association. That is my voice and my advocate.
Absolutely. Well, Fred, thank you so much for joining us. I feel like that answered everything anyone would want to know.
Let me add just one thing.
Yeah, please.
If I could. And I know we've gone long. Thank you so, Matt. I'm going to add two things. One is you are a great representative. You personify the professionalism and passion of this industry. So from the bottom of my heart, I'm so grateful that our paths crossed. COVID sucked, but there are some silver linings. You're one of them. Yes. My second point, we're going beyond just regulatory and government advocacy as an association. So in the next 2 weeks, we're going to be rolling out lots of member benefits.
Awesome.
I'm talking about merchant services, microloans, discounts for products, insurance policies. We're going to come out big with lots of other things to help folks because financially a lot of people really got hurt.
Yeah.
And so we already put $25 million into our industry through the federal PPP program.
Yeah.
Now we're up to about $5 million in the employee retention tax credit for employee-based salons. So, and now we're partnering with others that are going to offer low interest loans, merchant services, credit cards at great rates. And so we're going to be rolling some things out in the next 2 to 3 weeks that I hope will help throw a lifeline to so many people that have suffered the last 2 years. So we're going to go beyond just our advocacy mission. We're really going to be here for our beloved industry.
Yep. Awesome. I don't know if you can see down there, Victor Val says,
another silver lining.
Yeah. He says, do education-based funding raising, count on me. We had a few people ask for Freedom Fest too. I've heard lots of people talking about wanting to gather.
Freedom.
Fred, it's been an absolute pleasure. Honestly, I'm so happy that I have someone like you that I can go to, and then we can have these kind of discussions. I look forward to having another discussion again very soon, man.
Let's do it. Matt, thank you again for the opportunity, and again for being a great representative of this passionate industry.
Thank you, Fred. Thank you. God bless you, man. Have a good night.
You too.